When people talk about Blitzkrieg, they talk about tanks. They see Panzer columns racing across Poland or France, throwing dust into the air as they punch deep into enemy lines. But this image, as dramatic as it is, hides the truth. Germany's lightning war did not run on tanks alone. It ran on artillery, on guns that moved with the front, on weapons that shattered resistance before the tanks struck, and on the men who served those guns under conditions few modern soldiers could endure. Long before the first tank crossed a border, German artillery officers debated how to give their guns the mobility the next war demanded. In the Great War, artillery dominated the battlefield, but it was slow, heavy, static. Guns were dragged by horses or hauled by tractors that moved little faster. To fight a fast war, Germany needed fast firepower. They needed guns that rolled as quickly as tanks and fired with the same precision as static batteries. The idea was ambitious, but Germany pursued it with absolute determination. The earliest step toward mobile firepower was the Sturmpanzer I Bison. It looked awkward, almost comical. A 15-centimeter infantry gun mounted on the tiny Panzer I chassis. It was top-heavy, slow, loud enough to shake the teeth out of a man's head. When the Bison fired, the blast inside the compartment was so violent that crews stuffed wool in their ears or tore strips from their scarves to soften the shock. Some wrote later that the noise hit their bodies like a wave, rolling through the ribs and up the spine. But the Bison worked. In France and early campaigns, it smashed bunkers that tanks could not even approach. It proved that artillery could move with the front, even if the price was paid by the crew's hearing. From that beginning came far better machines. The grille replaced the shaky balance of the Bison with a more stable chassis. Crews loved its straightforward design. It fired quickly. It set up fast. In the tight villages of the Eastern Front, the grille became a building killer. Its 15-centimeter shells turned stone into dust and collapsed wooden defenses in a single shot. Soviet infantry who faced it often said they could feel the concussion through the soles of their boots. Germany still needed more range, more accuracy, more endurance. The answer was the Wespe, a light, quick self-propelled gun built on the reliable Panzer II chassis. Its 105mm howitzer did not look impressive on paper, but in practice, it became one of the most important guns of the war. The Wespe's value was in rhythm. German forward observers, positioned dangerously close to enemy lines, directed its fire with remarkable precision. When a Wespe battery began walking its shells forward, one line, then another, infantry and tanks could advance behind a rolling curtain of destruction. Many Allied veterans later said that the Wespe barrage was harder to predict and more unnerving than heavier guns because of its steady, relentless pace. Then came the Hummel, taller, heavier, deadlier. Built on a hybrid Panzer III and Panzer IV chassis, the Hummel carried a 150mm gun that hit with tremendous force. It could shell targets far behind the lines or hammer enemy strongpoints before German armor attacked. But serving a Hummel came with challenges. Its recoil was powerful enough to shake bolts loose and stress the chassis. After firing high-charge rounds, crews inspected the floor plates, recoil rollers, and mounting bolts before firing again. They knew that a loose fitting today could become a fatal malfunction tomorrow. The Hummel's crew also dealt with communication problems. The driver and radio operator sat in a separate front compartment, divided from the gun crew by armor bulkheads. Communication relied on shouting or on tapping the metal. In the chaos of battle, orders were misheard or missed entirely. Despite these flaws, the Hummel was a workhorse of German artillery. When several Hummels fired together, the ground trembled. Crews often described the sensation as a pressure wave, like standing near the ocean as a huge wave crashed. While self-propelled guns delivered mobility, Germany's heavy-towed pieces delivered reach. The 17-centimeter Kanone 18 was a masterpiece of engineering. Its recoil system allowed the barrel to slide smoothly backward on rails, absorbing enormous force. The gun fired shells that carved craters wide enough to swallow a light vehicle. Crews transported it in two major loads, barrel and carriage, then reassembled it with practiced precision. Once firing, the Kanone 18 struck bridges, supply depots, and assembly areas long before infantry even saw the enemy. Its shells arrived without warning, and their impact often shattered morale before fighting even began. The artillery branch's most famous weapon, of course, was the Flak 88. The 88 needs no introduction. Originally meant for aircraft, it became one of the most feared anti-tank and anti-structure guns ever used. It was accurate at astonishing distances. Its high-velocity rounds delivered shocking penetrative power. Tank crews feared it. Infantry feared it. Even airmen feared it. When an 88 opened fire in a ground roll, it delivered hits with such confidence that many Allied veterans recalled feeling doomed the moment they heard its sharp crack. But firepower alone did not explain German artillery's effectiveness. The real secret lay in how they prepared the battlefield. German staff officers created detailed map-fire lanes before major operations. These were pre-plotted coordinates, roads, hedges, likely enemy assembly points, that guns could fire on instantly. If a forward observer died, if the radio failed, if the front moved too fast, the battery could still support the attack. It was an overlooked advantage of German planning. Artillery success also hinged on loading rituals. A smooth artillery crew was like a dance. One man swung the round into place, another rammed it home. Another prepared the charges, adjusting them based on distance, weather, barrel wear, and the elevation of the gun. Barrel wear, in fact, was a constant worry. After thousands of high-pressure rounds, rifling wore thin, affecting accuracy. Some guns required their barrels replaced after a single hard campaign. Crews recorded each shot in logs to estimate remaining barrel life. Ammunition shortages became a growing problem as the war dragged on. Hummel and Wespe units on the Eastern Front sometimes fired captured Soviet shells, shaving or modifying them by hand to ensure they fit properly. It was dangerous work, but artillerymen were used to danger. They were also used to exhaustion. They moved through mud, snow, heat, and dust. They lived beside their guns. They slept on ammunition crates. Their uniforms were stained with oil and powder. Their hearing faded long before their war ended. At the extreme end of German firepower were the siege mortars like the Karl Gerät. Enormous, slow, and impossible to hide, these machines brought destruction on a scale few soldiers had ever seen. Their shells required cranes to lift. Their blast waves shook buildings. Their logistical demands were enormous, but when they fired, they changed the shape of cities. By the last years of the war, artillery became Germany's last reliable strength. Fuel shortages restricted tank movement. Air superiority passed to the Allies. But a single well-positioned Pak 43 or a hidden Hummel battery could still halt an attack for hours. A disciplined artillery crew, even on the losing side, remained a force that every Allied soldier respected. Tanks made Blitzkrieg famous, but artillery made Blitzkrieg possible. It gave the German army shock, rhythm, and reach. It shattered defenses before the first Panzer rolled forward. And long after the tanks became icons of popular memory, the guns still tell the true story, that Blitzkrieg's steel fist was not armor, but artillery.